Good evening. We're going to get started. This is the regular meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee for January 26, 2015. We have a quorum. Could we please have a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th?
Minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Before we get to our items for consideration, we have two speakers tonight. I'm going to do it a little bit different. This is my last night, so
You're changing it up.
I'm changing it up. This is my last night to chair. Mr. Risky would like to speak on two items, and we have another speaker who also wants to speak on one item. I'm going to do the two items now. That's A4 and A8 that he wants to speak on. And then when we get to the item for discussion, then we'll have you come back and the other two speakers will speak then. Okay? So, Mr. Risky, you want to give your name?
Janad Risky. What I'm going to speak on then, since I'm trying to change this a little, what I see here is something very interesting, and that is when these items come up, the Northwest Water Commission has to pay for some of these items. And actually on two of the items that interest me, first there's this item, the change order for the 48-inch diameter pipe. Well, if the Northwest Water Commission is paying for this, as you understand, if we have a payment that has to be made, if we extend time, we're actually paying more money because we are borrowing money to do the work. So that is an issue. And every time one of these projects comes up like this, now because we have this issue with the tank, is who's paying, I'd like to start the council to ask, who's paying for like this 48 diameter pipe, and how much is being paid by the Northwest Water Commission, and how much is being paid by the Evanston ratepayers? And that's similar for the other item, which is the amending of the water supply contract, because we're basically putting feed pipes into the Northwest Water Commission pipes. So who's paying for this? It seems like we're paying, but we're modifying their system, and why? And just on a side note on that, it appears we're going to have two different kinds of water quality coming out of the plant, but that's another issue. So I'll leave it at that for now, but I think we need to be asking a lot more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Risky. Did you want to respond? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving ahead. Under items for consideration, first is the City of Evanston's payroll through January 11th, 2015. It's $2,853,768.41. Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? For our bills, for the funding year 2014, bills through the January 27th, 2015 is $1,150,586.73. And for funding year 2015 through January 27th is $252,606.25. Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. We also had questions on the bills list, which was emailed out, as well as you have hard copies in front of you. Are there any, I don't see any lights, but are there any questions or comments? Alderman Rainey.
Were we supposed to receive a photograph of the artwork that's going in the elevator at Sherman Avenue Garage, I'm sorry.
Director Lyons.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I apologize, Alderman Rainey. When I did the research on this and pulled the contract, it had a description of the artwork, but no picture, even though it did reference it. So we were still looking for that, the artwork itself, but it was not in the signed contract that I used when doing the research today. And if I can find that picture, it should be multiple pictures of what, based on the, I'm sorry, it said sight and effect or sound and effect.
Yeah. Did we ever see that? I just can't remember. I can't remember.
I thought we saw it.
If we did,
I'm sorry.
and I missed this the last piece as I was walking in. Good evening.
Alderman Rainey was asking for pictures of the artwork that's going into Sherman
And
Plaza.
then I just asked, have I forgotten, did we see this?
Yeah, it's multiple panes of glass with light on the elevator. So it's not just one particular piece, but it's sort of an installation of sorts. There was an opportunity for the council, maybe a year and a half ago, before we started the process, to kind of go take a site visit to see with the Public Art Committee. We can take photographs of it. I think it's one of those things you need to see at night, but we can take pictures of it. And as the elevator goes up and down, there's light that illuminates the panes of glass that have been installed with the design. So
But
that's
we did, Alderman Rainey, we did have a presentation, and we saw it, and then they did encourage us to go down and
But
look
it's
at it. I
been
remember
at
it
least
now.
18 months, maybe even
Oh,
2
yeah.
years ago.
Shame on me.
2012, so, in 2012, so.
Shame on me, I can't remember it. I would really like to see it without going there.
Well, maybe we
like,
could do a
the
little
next day or
video.
two.
Because
Yeah.
that probably, I don't know that still photographs would really capture it. Ms. Storley was
I
just
agree.
here behind me. There she is. And what we'll do is we'll get a little video made. We'll put it up on our website, send you a link, and
You know, when something like this comes up that's not been around or in front of us for a year and a half or two, it might be a good idea to remind us
Of
of
course,
what it is.
of
you
course.
know? Yeah. I'm all for public art, I love it, but we need to see what we're paying for, when we're paying for it.
you bet.
Right. Thank you, City Manager. I see no more lights. Are there any questions, more questions on the bills? If not, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Brathwaite, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move item 3.1, approval of a sole source renewal of annual Acela PAL maintenance and support agreement.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, I guess I'm the only one who doesn't know stuff. I tried to look and see what PAL stood for.
Yeah.
Does anybody on the council know? Oops, I guess not. Could you tell us what it stands for? Not once. I don't think it was mentioned in.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, Jose Calderon, IT Division members. The PAL stands for Permits and Licensing. It's an
Permits.
internal term that the city uses to reference
No,
Acela.
I know exactly what it is. I just didn't, I just couldn't conjure up what permits and licensing. That's very complex, and I can understand why I forgot it. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
was for payment, so I was wrong.
I knew it
Close.
Payments in. Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Burrs.
I ask you to move A 3.2, approval of a sole source renewal of police service agreement with Motorola Solutions, Inc. for the amount of $77,092.92.
It's been moved in second. I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A 3.3 is approval of a sole source renewal of Otis Elevator Maintenance Contract. It's a one-year agreement effective January 1 to the 2015 to December 2015. Important to note is that this year's service agreement is 7% less than last year's.
It's been moved in second. I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Grover.
Madam Chair, I move A 3.4, which is our approval of the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, SWANK's disposal fees for fiscal year 2015, in not to exceed amounts of $60,000 for SWANK's capital cost, $800,000 for its operations and maintenance, and $20,000 for our recycling transfer fees.
It's been moved in second. Alderman Rainey.
I'm just wondering, do we ever do an audit of these costs? I know that sometimes our our waste is less than what we've paid for, and they do a prove-up or a true-up. But I'm just wondering in general, do the communities involved ever take a look at the numbers here? We've had a few little issues at Swank, and just wondering if that ever happens.
I thought that Director Robinson, I thought she was
we
here.
pay these
Can we just
enormous-
ask her to come out?
I just want to explain myself. We pay these very large numbers for this wonderful service. But do we really have a comfort zone on what we're being charged?
And what kind of, not only that, but I guess there's no other alternative, is there, in terms of?
Yeah, I think
I mean, we'd have
we're
to go
locked
out.
in. We're locked
Director
in at this
Robinson,
time.
Alderman Rainey has a question about an audit of the fees that we pay to Swank. Do we ever have an
My real
audit?
question is, are we totally comfortable with what we're being charged? And in addition, where is our garbage being taken?
I'm not sure. It's transferred, and it goes to Wisconsin, somewhere in Wisconsin for landfilling, for the garbage. We do perform internal audits. We actually we visit the transfer station and monitor our trucks. We get a very detailed description and weights that come back for each one of our trucks, and we actually do perform audits to make sure that we're being charged properly.
What about capital costs that we pay for?
The capital costs are set by each year, and we're paying off bonds along with the other cities. They do each year when the budget is put together, and we're paying off bonds from previous improvements, which it's my understanding we only have a few more years to pay. That's why that number has gone down dramatically over the years. So they don't make any capital improvements without the board approval, which the mayor is our representative and Wiley is the alternate. So, and we have a say in any type of improvements that they make.
Okay.
In addition,
I was going to say, I have Alderman Grover next, so don't leave.
I'm on the Swanks website, and they do produce and publish on their website all kinds of financial reports, budgets, bond issues, and annual auditors' reports, annual reports and auditors' reports. So the information is publicly available. I assume it would be easy enough for somebody from our staff to just take a look.
But those are
And-
the
and give us
very-
a-
those are
a
the very
rundown.
numbers I'm questioning.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Director Lyons?
Just one other point. The current executive director, Dave Van Vorn, is a former public works director of Naperville. He's very versed in speaking to city councils. If it's the wish of the council for Mr. Van Vorn to come and give a short presentation about the capital and operating costs, we could put that on a future agenda. That is part of his duties to us as a member of SWANK.
Wait, may I ask another question?
Go ahead, Alderman.
Is the transfer station in Wheeling, is that where,
The transfer station is in Glenview.
Glenview?
Yes.
And in Wheeling, what is in Wheeling? There is some.
Their office is now located in Wheeling, the Swank offices. They used to also be located in, but they rent office space in Wheeling.
Do you remember, or is there anybody here who remembers when there was the bale fill issue, where our recycling or our garbage was going to be taken to Wheeling and baled, and then taken to Bartlett, and Bartlett sued Swank for millions and millions of dollars, and we and Swank lost, and Bartlett won? No?
No.
And I'm wondering, are we still paying off some of those bonds from that lawsuit, from that loss?
We can find out. We
Probably.
can find out.
be interesting to know. I would love to
Okay.
hear this guy. I don't know if anybody else would.
Set it up.
Would the committee like to have Mr. Van Born come and do a short presentation so we can understand better how, I guess, the budget works and what the monies that we're paying are being spent for and how they're spent? I think that's the gist of what Alderman Rainey is asking.
Yep.
If so, then who, Director,
I'll
Director
set
Robinson?
it up.
Okay,
Yes.
if you could set that up.
Very light
Absolutely.
night, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's on
Okay.
maybe it's one of our third Mondays, presentation
Can you
night.
remember the last director, the last executive director?
Is that the one?
Yes,
Yeah,
When he in jail?
yes, he
Yes.
is.
I was going to say the last one we all remember.
Oh, and the one before that?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Director
Who's
Robinson.
counting?
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, that was you, right, Alderman Grover? Yes. Okay, so then it's me. 3.5, approval of the renewal of the service providers agreement with Presence Behavioral Health. Staff recommends that the city authorize the city manager to renew the service providers agreement with Presence Health for the provision of 24-hour crisis line assess mental health crisis intervention and various community outreach and educational services at a cost of $73,333.33. The date of the agreement is January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2015.
Second.
Yeah, Alderman Brethwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there anyone here from the Health Department that's able to give us a quick little overview on the numbers of calls and how the relationship has been progressing?
Madam Chair, Alderman Braithwaite, members of the committee, Director Thomas Smith is home ill this evening, so I think I am probably it. In a nutshell, the relationship is going extraordinarily well. This is something that's primarily used by our first responders, police and fire. We've worked close with Presence to make sure that our police and fire folks have the access to the information that they need. Admittedly, it was sort of a slow start with this, but in the last year, it's been a very close relationship. We feel very good about this, this really because we're getting information to people and helping people in a very direct way, and our police officers and firefighters have done an outstanding job of being the conduit. So that's moving forward. I can make sure that we get you a report on the numbers that have been worked on, but
In the packet. Yeah.
Packet.
But it's been a very, very good relationship. We're very pleased. It really was a missing component, if you recall, when the staff brought this issue to you a couple of years ago. It was actually Presence who saw the news reports that came forward and said of the work they had done with many area townships, but were never able to really get Evanston interested. And from that came this agreement, and has been very successful. They do an excellent job.
Seeing no other lights? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Brethwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move item A4, approval of a change order number 2 for a 48-inch diameter water intake improvement, and that's in the contract amount of $1,403.
1 million.
1 million, excuse me.
A lot of difference.
Big difference. Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you,
moved
Chair.
in second. Seeing no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
A5, I ask that you accept and place on file the Town of Evanston fiscal year 2013 audited annual financial report and the Town of Evanston fiscal year 2014 from January to April 30th audited annual financial report.
It's been moved in second. Seeing no lights. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommended the council resolution 6R15, authorizing the payments relating to 2015 CIP projects be reimbursed by the subsequent 2015 GO bond issues for expenditures up to $14,320,650.
It's been moved and second. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Alderman Grover?
Madam Chair, I move A7, Resolution 7R15, which provides for modification of the loan terms for Chicago's home of Chicken and Waffles at 2424 Dempster Street.
Second. It's been moved and second. Seeing no lights?
Wait.
Yeah.
Don't you think we should talk about this? There's a proposal by the borrower and one by our staff. I'm just wondering, should we discuss it, or should we go with one or the other, or what are we suggesting?
Okay. Alderman Breathwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess we can have staff come forward. That was one of the things that I had identified that would be confusing in the packet. The owners and staff, yeah, it's confusing. And the owners met with staff, and I think she's here, and she can tell you that moving forward, I think they're moving forward with staff's recommendation, Alderman Rainey.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Chair Holmes, members of the Administration and Public Works Committee, Johanna Nyden, Economic Development Manager. We've been working with Alderman Braithwaite and the owners of Chicken and Waffles to modify their loan. Their projections weren't what they anticipated, but it is a loan. They are able to make payments, so we've worked with them to adjust the proposed amortization schedule so that it would amortize over a longer period of time, which would reduce their monthly payment. But since this is a loan, we kept the general terms and interest rate the same as what was originally presented to the Economic Development Committee. And these are comparable to what we already have with our other loans. So we wanted to try to keep the modification as close to our existing loans that we have with other businesses, so we wouldn't have a line out the door for people who want to come and modify their loans.
Okay. We have to remember that because we have one coming up on economic development next week, right? Another one, yeah, another modification. Okay. I want to remember that in my head. Okay. I see no other lights. Oh, Alderman Rainey? Go ahead.
So what should be moved then is the staff proposal. Yes. A 30-year amortization rate that's extended from a 20-year rate that is current. Maintain the interest rate of 5.75. And the loan is still due and payable in 5 years from restructure date, which would be March 1, 2020, right?
Correct.
And new payment would begin March 1.
And the outstanding balance of the existing loan to be added to the total loan.
Right. That's right, at the end. Put it on there. Right.
So,
do you have to make a move on the reimbursement of the $4,500 too?
I don't think we have to go item by item. I think that if we move the staff's recommendation and get a second to that, we can move ahead. I would think.
Director Robinson will bring back next City Council meeting a proposal to address those items as it relates to the right-of-way agreement and the snow removal.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's all another different piece. Alderman Rainey, did I not turn you off or you finished?
I moved that.
Oh, okay. So,
That's what we're approving.
right, it's been moved in second. Seeing no other lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A8, ordinance 149-0-14, amending the water supply contract with the Northwest Water Commission. Staff recommends City Council adoption of ordinance 149-0-14, authorizing the city manager to execute amendment number 2 to the amended and restated water supply contract between Northwest Water Commission and the City of Evanston. The proposed amendment provides language that would allow Evanston to feed 2 chemicals directly into the Commission's pipeline. This is an introduction. It's been moved in second. Seeing no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, A9.
Aye. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move ordinance 10-0-15, amending the City Code Title 4, Chapter 5, Plumbing Code, to adopt the Illinois Plumbing Code.
Second.
Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to let Alderman Rainey do A10.
You may do that, that's all right.
You sure?
Sure.
Okay. I move A10, ordinance 2-0-15, authorizing the city manager to enter into a real estate contract for the sale of city-owned real property at 629, 631 Howard Street to Ward 8 LLC.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded by Alderman Rainey. Is there? I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A11, Alderman Grover. No, Alderman Rainey. It's your turn.
Sorry, it was my fault. I messed the whole system up.
That's all right.
All right. I was just so excited I didn't put it. Ordinance 14-050 is amending the code to allow for the retail sale of alcohol for on-site consumption at distilleries where alcohol is sold retail.
Second.
Not for breweries, et cetera, but for distilleries.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Grover?
Madam Chair. This item stayed with us from our meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe. So I will, for the purpose of discussion, move Ordinance 109-014, adding Title III, Chapter 31, regarding transportation network providers. Regulation of transportation network providers such as Uber, Sidecar, and Lyft.
Okay.
This item was held 2 weeks ago by us for further discussion.
Right, and I would assume the city manager has an update for us from last week. Alderman Rainey, do you want to speak?
I just wanted to say very briefly that I thought our staff did an excellent job of taking the conversation and bringing it to this memo. I thought it reflected those who had some interest in regulation and those who were concerned. And I think the option that we're being given here, that I'm being given at least, I see a way I can support something in here, and that is the staff recommendation. One of the staff presentations, it's not a recommendation, that we sit back and wait till there's some maturity here and go rely on the state regulations. So anyway, that's just wanted to express that.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and I would like to thank Mr. Farrar for his fine work on this. We've been following, as you know, these issues for the last several months. Interestingly enough, the evening that the council last spoke on this issue, the governor, as he was leaving office, signed a bill which provides some state regulation of these shared transport operations. Mr. Farrar and I, based on the discussion that the council had, really feel that while this ordinance certainly has merit that's before you and is working well in the city of Chicago, our sense was that the Evanston City Council wanted to go in a slightly different direction. So our recommendation would be to consider directing us to prepare an appropriate resolution that would state that the city of Evanston wishes to have the state of Illinois and those laws govern these activities, and we'll see how that works. And if businesses come here, we will, if the resolution were to pass, we will make sure those businesses have the appropriate licensing and requirements with the state of Illinois, and if that's the case, we would take no further action in Evanston, and we would let that, see how that works for a while, and if there's a need to come back to you, we would, but we do feel it would be important to have the council, through a resolution, take an action indicating that it's the state law that you're looking to rather than creating local ordinance.
Right. I have Alderman Burst and then Alderman Grover.
I was going to concur that I think that's a great approach, and thank you, Mr. Farrar and Mr. Bobkowitz, for coming up with this idea. I think it's a wise move.
Alderman Grover?
My understanding of the state legislation is that it does take care of our two primary concerns as we were looking from a public policy perspective at whether to regulate these ride share or the transportation networks, and that would be public safety and consumer protection. And a lot of the consumer protection features take care of naturally through the way these systems operate, which is through the instant feedback mechanism of the reliability, the safety, the cleanliness of the ride. So I'm happy to rely on the state regulation at this point to ensure consumer protection and public safety as to the transportation network providers. So thank you, Mr. Farrar, for your work on this. Thanks, Wally.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, we would request that the committee motion be to direct the Corporation Council to prepare an appropriate resolution reflecting the council's direction.
That's my motion.
That's the motion. It's been moved in second. No lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and so we will move ahead with that. All right, we have items for discussion. First is APW1, which is a multifamily recycling pilot. And I'm assuming we're having a presentation. Are we having a presentation on that or no?
Good evening, Chair Holmes and the rest of the Administration and Public Works Committee. I'm Suzette Robinson, the Director of Public Works. And I have a proposal for you tonight to consider a multifamily recycling pilot. So I'm going to go over our current recycling operations, the proposed pilot area, some benefits we think, and the next steps for the program if you approve it. So currently, our recycling operations consist of residential recycling. We have 8 equipment operators, 8 recycling trucks, and we have a special pickup refuse collection operation, a business district parking lot recycling, and business district and parking lot and parks refuse collection. So we have a total of 9 full-time people in larger trucks, and we have 2 additional personnel in the business district and parks, and then we have 1 floater employee that fills in for vacations, and then we use supplemental seasonal employees during heavier trash periods over the summer and the holidays. Currently, these our hours of collection are Monday through Friday, and we pick up the residential recycling. We also pick up condominium recycling as well. So with regards to our residential recycling program, as you can see from the graph, dating back to 2003, we have increased our recycling from 6,000 to about 9,000 tons. However, we have kind of reached a bit of a plateau. We had a little bit of a jump between 2010 and 2011 when we expanded our recycling collection to include the business districts and the parks. And then now we've seemed to have hit another plateau as well. So we really want to look at ways where we can re-energize and increase the recycling rates within the community. And one of the areas that we think we can do that is with multifamily, expanding our recycling to include multifamily units. We get a lot of requests from students as well as other businesses that either don't have sufficient recycling opportunities because the ordinance provides for 1 free 95-gallon container per multifamily building, and that's not sufficient, and in some cases that container does not exist. Or it gets converted and used as a garbage cart. So you also have people that really are interested in recycling that don't have the capacity, that are using recycling containers for some single-family households in an effort to recycle. So this fall we did a small pilot using some multifamily buildings, and it really resulted in diverting more recycling, and in a lot of cases, those buildings actually save money, meaning that, or they broke even. So we talked to the businesses, the buildings, and what we did was share with them if they reduced the frequency of their garbage collection and increased the recycling capacity, that either they would break even or save money. And they did that, and we found we were able to get them to divert more of their garbage into recycling. So we want to be able to expand that. So to expand it, we're proposing that we have established 2 pilot areas. So we want to take the Monday and Wednesday, all the multifamily units that fall within those trash route areas, to offer multifamily recycling. So our in-house crews that are already picking up the residential homes in those areas would also pick up the multifamily buildings. So what that would consist of is roughly 157 additional addresses on Monday and 77 on Wednesday. Both of those days we have a little excess capacity that we think we can absorb the collection of those additional stops within our existing structure. So we will be using the same staffing and equipment to accommodate this. So some of the environmental benefits, when I presented the information in September of 2014, it showed you what our diversion rates are for the commercial and multifamily units, and it's much less than the residential rate. The residential rate we're running at about 30% diversion, and the commercial rate is about 9%. So we want to be able to increase that. We asked council to approve a goal back in September of 2014 of trying to achieve a diversion rate for multifamily and commercial of 30%, and we think this pilot will help us at least raise the multifamily component to 30%. We think we'll achieve that before 2020. Other environmental benefits are not only just increasing the recycling by 4,000 tons a year, the equivalency of reducing emissions by 1,000 homes per year. We think this will also support our rodent management efforts. If we're able to convert more of the garbage into recycling, then there's less garbage, fewer containers that are overflowing with garbage, and then it'll also create equitable recycling services for all residents, because we get a lot of requests for multifamily recycling. The financial benefit, what you see here is also the information that I provided, updated with regards to how much the solid waste fund. So right now we're getting about $1 million from the general fund to support solid waste operations. And the potential exists that if this is a successful program, that we could potentially reduce the general fund transfer amount. If the multifamily units are assessed a per unit per month sanitation service charge, and I've showed you what that would look like. So right now, single family homes pay $17.95 per unit per month. Condominiums pay $7.95. So I've given you some potential multifamily sanitation service charge amounts based on the total number of units, and we can generate anywhere from $400,000 to $700,000. And the proposed sanitation service charge for multifamilies is so much less than the other two, is because it would only be for recycling. So condominium, that $7.95 charges for recycling and refuse collection. So our next steps would be to run the pilot from, it's actually going to be February 15th instead of February 1st, to October 31st, and this will be at no charge to the multifamily properties within that Monday and Wednesday route. We would notify the multifamily unit owners that this is a mandatory pilot, so we would provide containers for every single building, and that container will consist of either the roll-off cart or a dumpster, depending on what was needed and how much space is available. We would also roll out an educational material along with the containers to make sure that they understood what goes in the containers as well. And then we would monitor the collection rates for 3 months, and we would report our results back to City Council in July.
How are you going to provide the educational information?
When we distribute the carts, we're actually going to meet with the building maintenance people and not just the owners. We want to meet with the people actually on site because they're the ones that are going to.
You've really got to meet with the people who live in the building. And I would suggest a postcard like you send out for neighborhood meetings to every single resident and every single building that we're going to serve, because it'll be a new thing. And then I would just plaster the containers with, this is not a garbage can, because there's just no point in screwing it up from the beginning. I think there's going to be fabulous participation if we let people know how to participate.
Okay, and just so you know, it's kind of hard to see for the labels, but on the top, the label on the top is actually what goes in the container. That's the label that's inside. And then on the front of the container, on the back of the container, we have recycling only, and it says no refuse or plastic, no garbage or plastic bags, so that people understand that it's just for recycling.
That's out there in the alley, but then,
yes.
Is that a black can?
Yes, it is.
It's not going to be a blue can like everybody else. See,
no.
I think that's crazy. I mean, everybody has a blue can, right? And now we're going to introduce another piece that doesn't quite fit in the puzzle. I think, is this a can from the yard over at the recycling center?
Yep, these are the surplus cans, and the
God, they're going
The reason why it's also helpful for us, if you remember, even when we had the condominium recycling program, they had different containers, so we can track we got to be able to keep the quantity so we can show the improvement numbers.
Got to postcard the people who
yes.
live in the building. There are people who live in multifamily buildings who have never seen their maintenance guy, and we don't want the maintenance guy having to sort the garbage out of the recycling cans, So I just think it would, for a few extra dollars, it would be well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Alderman Grover?
Yes, as Alderman Rainey says, we are creating new recyclers now. They may not have had the opportunity to recycle ever. There may be, as you suggest, a whole lot of people who really want to be able to recycle, mm-hmm. but then we have a whole lot of residents who maybe, because it hasn't been available, don't know how to recycle. And so it'll be a little bit of a learning curve for them. But I really like your approach, Director Robinson, which is to start with a small pilot, test its success and our capacity, expand this pilot to what amounts to probably half of our real estate mm-hmm. in Evanston, and test our capacity for taking on even more recycling. But at the same time, it addresses this demand for recycling and will bring so many more people up to speed on what our recycling efforts are. So I think it's a really, really pragmatic approach to how to increase our diversion rates. It also makes me wonder, if we're recycling a little more than 9,000 tons a year, what is our potential capacity? Mm-hmm. 9,000 tons is 5% of the total potential diversion, or I don't know. What percentage of all of the waste that we create is potentially recyclable? And 9,000 tons is some percentage of that total amount. And
yeah, I think
it would be interesting if we talked about this recycling program and let's create more recycling tonnage. Diversion's a great term because it's diverting away from landfill. I really wish we could call garbage landfill because it tells people exactly where it's going. But also,
our citywide diversion is about 15%.
only
So-
15%.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I
that's
knew
the
you knew that, yeah.
9,000 tons plus the yard waste diversion. So that's
Okay.
included in our diversion factor
Yeah.
too. So that's the other component that's missing. So
All right. We need many, many more tons
Absolutely.
of recycling
Yes.
in those
Yes.
recycling carts.
Well,
and we have the capacity in all programs, not just the multifamily. Even in our residential program, we have additional
Yeah. Potential.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey, I know I have your light, but just before that, I want to lose your point on the education piece in terms of neighborhood meetings, and I think that that is a way that we could assist as the alderman by having some of these meetings for these educational sessions to help people. Maybe we could even work something out with the schools, some kind of little contest or something. That would, be interesting to get people more interested in recycling.
Right.
Okay,
And we do have some ideas. Catherine and I have been talking. So, but we want to kind of collect this data, and when we come back, we plan to roll out some incentives that we think would even increase the recycling for even the single family homes, not just for multifamily. So we do have some ideas that we've already started to talk about.
Great. Alderman Rainey?
Well, I don't know if Portland has 100% recycling. However, it is against the
Speak
law.
into your mic, Alderman Rainey.
It's on. It is against the law in Portland, Oregon, to dispose of food waste. It is against the law. You are jailed and taken away. But it is absolutely against the law to dispose of food waste. Imagine.
So what do you do?
You compost, you eat it, or you dispose of it in your garbage disposal. We throw away billions of dollars of edible food every day. And I was just so impressed when I read that, And then there are communities that we talked about when we initially started talking about recycling. And my seatmate, when we had 2 aldermen per ward, was almost run out of town for suggesting that people only be allowed to have a certain poundage of garbage a week. You pay hugely for more than that. And, and that, I don't know how many years we've been recycling, but that is not uncommon in many communities now. So, and I always thought that the ordinance we passed for recycling required recycling. It evidently is a voluntary program. And at some point, we probably should require it.
It's required for multifamilies to have a recycling container, but the single-family homes, not. We provide them with one, whether they put it out or not. So every single-family home is provided a recycling container.
But does the law say, does the ordinance establishing recycling require multifamily recycling?
When we passed the franchise, we went back and made a modification and required that a 95-gallon recycling container is required for the multifamily buildings. One 95-gallon is required. So they have to have that as a minimum. And that was done because we received complaints from some of the apartment dwellers that their management wouldn't provide the recycling container, and they wanted to recycle. So,
Okay, anything? I see no more lights. Thank you, Director Robinson. We have now APW2, and we have 2 speakers. This is a, treated water storage report. Mr. Risky and Mr. Lanyon.
Just want to make a comment really on the last item. It might be quite reasonable to what we're going to talk about now. When we do things here, I'm really interested in how we do these financials, because the way I understood the last item is it wasn't going to cost us anything to do this pilot. Am I wrong in what I heard? Anyone? But it doesn't make sense. But because I remember the yard waste stickers when we said we would sell $900,000 of stickers, and we sold 300. So that's really what I really, this with this water reservoir, I think what has been probably now, we've come to a point where it appears the Northwest Water Commission will pay 91% of this cost of this item. But when this all started, at one point I was told that the water we pumped out of that did not go through that reservoir and went to the Northwest Water Commission without really going there. So we could not collect the money from the Northwest Water Commission. Now, maybe I heard something wrong, but if that's not the case, if that is the case, then we're okay. I'm not going to say why wouldn't we do this, because obviously they're going to pay for the entire thing, pretty much, not the city. But if we're wrong, and the Northwest Water Commission comes back and says, hey, we're not going to pay for this, we can go in litigation, that'll be very interesting. I think the council needs to be real sure that what we're doing here is because we don't seem to have a financial handle on some of this stuff, how we're dealing with it. And this is what concerns me, because it would be a very big surprise, because if they don't pay, this will be a 20% water bill increase immediately. So it's something I think it's very important that this has to be understood. Also, I had to say I was pleased that in the memo, they at least said Northwestern will pay if we move the tank. Northwestern will pay $800,000. Of course, if we go in design and Northwestern hasn't agreed to pay, then that will be an interesting thing too. So we need to be asking the question, up front, is Northwestern going to agree to pay for these things? Or are we going to leave the tank in place where it's at? So that, I think, really, I don't, like I say, have much of an issue with. I think the issue we were getting into is the Evanston ratepayers were going to pay for this, because then we really have an issue of dealing with the cheaper option or the less expensive option because of the financials. And as I've been saying all along, the water department has not been presenting the financials here very well to us. And it troubles me, as I said recently in my other comment, that the Northwest Water Commission should be paying for some of this stuff, obviously, it sounds like. So why at every time we get a presentation here for an item at the water plant, why aren't we being told how much the Northwest Water Commission is paying and, for the item? And then we've had almost, like I say, an effective 44% water bill increase. Well, that wouldn't account for all the pipe under the street here by any means. And the other thing I would say, as I said in my other comment, is time here is money. There have been projects here that keep on going beyond time. And the SCADA project was one that was a project in the plant. So did the Northwest Water Commission pay for that? And how much did we pay extra? Because this thing kept on getting change orders back. And that's the same thing with this reservoir. If this reservoir goes over time, this is not small amounts of money that will be charged at interest to the city of Evanston and ratepayers. This will hit the capital budget because he's going into capital to take it. So there is no water bill increase to pay the interest on this, which is almost over $1 million. So if this goes over 6 months or a year, and there are potentials for that, in looking at some of this that they didn't answer, then this will cost money, real money, and it will affect the other projects and what's going on. So all these things have to be, really thought through. And as I said, keep on saying, we need to go through here, get a business consultant in here, and look at this water operation and understand it. The comment has been made here for some time, we have bad contracts. Well, I'm not so sure. Do we have bad contracts or what's going on here? Nobody wants to really answer this. Nobody wants to tell us what this business is doing. But we want to keep on approving water bill increases. We've done this now for 5 years. And we could be in trouble here. So I think we need to get somebody in here to analyze what we're doing here. Because as I said in the beginning, you didn't tell us that the Northwest Water Commission would pay for this months ago. So what are we doing here? So I think you aldermen should be asking some questions. To me, this is not a technical issue that you don't need to understand. You're responsible for the money, not the technical here. You don't need to make a decision between repairing the top and putting a new tank in. You need to make the decision what's going on with this business that doesn't harm the Evanston residents' pocketbooks. And that's the real issue here. And frankly, some of this technical stuff I hear is wrong here, but that's neither here nor there for you to worry about. Your issue really is the money and our pocketbooks. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riskey. Mr. Lanyon?
Madam Chair, members of the council, I'm pleased to be here to represent the Utilities Commission. And the Utilities Commission is pleased to make a recommendation on this subject study. Now, the purpose of the Utilities Commission is to protect and promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, businesses, and institutions of Evanston. It is necessary to participate in the planning and improvement of electrical, natural gas, telephone, water, and sewer services in Evanston to ensure reliable and competitive service. And I emphasize those last 4 words. Of all the means for storage of finished water, the fate of the 81-year-old 5 million gallon 1934 clear well located under the Northwestern University parking lot south of Lincoln Street is the primary concern. Based on a needs assessment in Appendix A of the report, the city needs this 5 million gallon clear well capacity to comply with regulatory standards and best practices. Of the 5 alternatives presented for repair or replacement, Alternative B, rehabilitate the clear well roof in place, and Alternative C, replace the clear well existing footprint, are the most favorable based on the comparison of life cycle cost over the range of discount rates considered. Repair is favored at a higher discount rates, and replacement is favored at the lower rates. Since the city financing will continue in the lower range and low interest loans, and a low interest loan from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency is likely, the Utilities Commission strongly believes that replacement is more favorable and will offer more competitive service to Evanston residents and water customers. Based on reliable service, the Utilities Commission recommends Alternative C, that is replacement, for the following reasons. First, the city will have a new state-of-the-art asset with a 100-year life, meeting all current standards and best practices. The supply of plentiful and safe water in Evanston is currently at some risk because of this one aged asset. The city will not have to commit to the ongoing inspection and repair at 5-year intervals if the roof is replaced, as recommended, as outlined in Alternative A, or if the roof is overlain with a new structural roof, which is Alternative B. We strongly believe that reliable service will be assured long into the future for Evanston residents and water customers if replacement, that is Alternative C, and the required 5-year maintenance and repair and replace for either alternatives A or B, that will place some risk for reliable service. With either roof replacement or a new structural roof, the city will face replacement of the entire asset after 30 years, when the underlying structure is 110 years old. Reliable service is at greater risk as the age of the asset grows. The study also includes consideration of other finished water storage in the clear wells underneath the filtration basins, clear well number 1 and 2, which are 101 years old, and clear wells number 3 and 4, which are 92 years old, will also need to be replaced. However, replacement of these finished clear wells cannot be accomplished at the same time as the 81-year-old clear well. Replacement must be staggered for reasons of financial capability and service continuity. Clear wells 1 through 4 have only 40% of the usable capacity of the 1934 clear well, so it is imperative that the larger facility be replaced. The Utilities Commission believes that it is prudent to perform some rehabilitation on the 4 older clear wells to extend their useful life well design of the replacement of the 1934 clear well is underway. After replacement of the 1934 clear well is complete and the reduction of the debt has occurred, replacement of the other older clear wells, numbers 1 through 4, can be accomplished. An important financial aspect is to consider is that a replacement of a major asset such as the 1934 clear well is included in the rate on return charge under the current contract with the Northwest Water Commission. Under the city's contract with the Commission, part of the cost of financing the replacement of the 1934 clear well will be shared by the Northwest Water Commission. There is 20 years remaining on the contract with the Commission, so it is advantageous to incur the cost of replacement of a major asset now as opposed to later after the contract terminates. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
So, Richard, the agreement with the Northwest Water Commission that we have accounts for their supporting the payment of those items such as this that affect their service, their delivery of water.
Yes.
I mean, this is not going to be any surprise to them. It's not like we're hoping they're going to pay. It's part of the deal.
It's part of the contract.
No, you. All right. Now, Director Stomek has a presentation for us.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Administration Public Works Committee. Dave Stomek, Utilities Director. I'm here tonight to give a short presentation, a summary of the treated water storage study that was completed by CDM Smith for the city. For clarification purposes, I want to make sure everybody understands that a clear well or a reservoir or treated water storage facility is a large concrete structure that stores water after it's passed through the water treatment process and before it's pumped out into the distribution system. As such, these clear wells are part of the contract with the Northwest Water Commission. It's an asset that they have to pay a return on rate on. At the water plant, there are 3 large areas that store water, 2 of which, clear wells 1 through 4, underneath the filters that were built in 1913 and 1923, and then clear wells 5 through 8 are underneath the filters that were constructed in 1948 and 1964. The final area is the large reservoir that's underneath Northwestern's parking lot that was constructed in 1934. In April 2014, the City Council approved staff's recommendation to hire CDM Smith to do a study on our treated water facilities, and that was to address deterioration found during the structural inspections that were completed between 2010 and 2013, estimate the remaining life of the structures based on condition and age, confirm needed storage volume based on regulatory requirements and best practices, and develop a comprehensive plan to maintain the required storage volume over the next 50 years. Some of the key findings that were brought up in that is that the water storage capacity is appropriate at the water plant and in the distribution system. This is something that staff really didn't realize. We always felt that we needed to have more treated water storage at the water plant in the event of an emergency, but what we have meets all requirements and we can survive with what we have. The report did suggest making modifications to increase the usable storage within the existing clear wells. Right now, if you sum everything up, we have 9.4 million gallons of water stored, but right now we can only get 5.2 million gallons of that out of the storage in the event of emergency. So we're going to make modifications to allow us to get almost all that 9.4 million gallons out if we have an emergency. And then the other fact was that additional storage won't be required as we add wholesale water customers unless we exceed the current plant rated capacity of 108 million gallons a day. Clear wells 1 through 4 are 90 and 100 years old. they're needed to maintain the storage capacity and for our filter operations. Cracks were identified in clear wells 1 through and 2 that need immediate attention to prevent infiltration, and we're proposing to make those repairs at an estimated cost of $470,000, and we would like to proceed on that work in this current budget year. And then, based on the engineer's report, it's assumed that these structures would need to be replaced in approximately 30 years. Clear wells 5 through 8, which are 50 and 65 years old, are in good condition. The report indicates that we should begin periodic inspection of those every 5 years, and we'll begin doing that now. As we inspect them, we should repair any minor cracks that are needed, and they believe that full replacement would be required in approximately 60 years because of the life of the structures will then be well over 100 years old. The 1934 clear well structure, the structural analysis indicated that the roof would not last more than another 5 years. And then we looked at several different options as to how to address that. One was to replace the roof. The second one was to rehabilitate the roof in its current position. A third option was to replace the structure near or at its current location. A fourth option was to abandon the structure and build a new reservoir on the east side of Sheridan Road by Milburn. And then the fifth alternative was to abandon the structure and build a reservoir in Leahy Park. And I think, as indicated earlier, the cheapest solutions were either to rehabilitate the roof slab in place or to replace the entire structure near or at its current location. The decision on how to proceed was then done based on a life cycle cost analysis. This chart indicates the cost. The top two lines on the left side indicate the cost to rehabilitate the structure, and the three lower lines on the left side indicate the cost to replace it, those different alternatives. Where those lines intersect is pretty much around at 5%. So as this chart indicates, the cost to replace the structure is assumed to be cheaper if the discount factor is 5% or less, and to rehabilitate it if the discount factor is more than 5%. Staff is therefore recommending the replacement of 1934 clear well at or near its current location based on the fact that a discount rate of 5% or better is not feasible at this time, and based on the life cycle cost analysis, then it's cheaper to replace it. There's a very high probability that the city would receive a low interest loan from the IEPA at 2.5% interest rate. So that, looking at that discount factor and getting it 2.5% clearly indicates that we're less than 5%. Due to financial impact, there would be no impact to our resident ratepayers, Evanston resident ratepayers. And another major factor that I want to point out is that this proposed plan then staggers the replacement of these major infrastructures where we have our treated water. If we're proposing to rehabilitate clear wells 1, 2, 3, and 4 this year, and then we assume we get another 30-year life. If we were to only rehabilitate the reservoir roof, it's estimated to have another 30-year life, and therefore 30 years from now, the city would potentially be facing a decision to try to replace two major infrastructure, the clear wells 1 through 4, as well as the reservoir. So we think that this is another important factor. The way we're planning it now, we're recommending that the reservoir be replaced in 2016, and then we're looking potentially at clear wells 1 through 4 being replaced in 2045, and clear wells 5 through 8 being replaced in 2075, staggering these major costs out over time. Again, one of the major impacts that make this very feasible to do right now is that we fully anticipate receiving an IEPA loan to do this work. We have a pre-loan application in. The interest rates over the past 2 years have been very low. We believe that the interest rate in 2016 would be about 2.5% or probably lower. Based on that, our annual debt service would be approximately $1,267,000. The way that the Northwest Water Commission would help pay for this is that this asset would be included in their asset list that they have to pay the return on rate on. That asset isn't added to their list until it's fully functional and placed in service, which is generally a year after it's finished construction. Therefore, for the first year, Evanston would have to pay 100% of the debt service, or $1.267 million. We believe that we can support that without a rate increase because in the current CIP, we've allocated $26 million to do this work on our different treated water storages, and we're able to reduce that amount by $5.8 million based on the current facts. So we feel very comfortable that we'd be able to pay the first year of debt without raising rates, and then years 2 through 20 of the debt service, the Northwest Water Commission would be paying approximately 91% of the debt service. So to try to sum it up, over the 20 years, if you borrow the $20-some million needed to replace the reservoir, the total debt payment would be $25,340,000. Over those 20 years, which is only really 19 years, year 2 through 20, the Northwest Water Commission would pay $23 million of that, or 91%. The remaining $2,270,000 is left to Evanston and Skokie, and then Evanston has to pay that first year debt service of $1 million. So really you're left with $1 million left, and that's split between Evanston and Skokie in the future. So you're looking at a payment of $26,300 from the Evanston ratepayers, which pretty much means there's no water rate increase needed for the replacement of this structure. And with that, I'll entertain questions.
I see no lights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We will adjourn, and planning and development should meet in the next 10 minutes. So at 7:30.